attention, please. I'd like to introduce to you the president of the Carolwood Foundation, Bill Barb.
How y'all doing today? I want to welcome you to Walt Disney's Barn. We are celebrating 15 years of being in Griffith Park. It's kind of hard to believe that we've been here for 15 years. It's been a very special experience for all of us that get to come out here and work in Walts Barn. At this time, I'd like to introduce a couple of very special guests and get them to come up here. The founder of the Carolwood Pacific Historical Society and one of the persons responsible for moving the barn here, Mr. Michael Brogy. Michael, can you come up, please? And we're going to make Sharon come up here as well, because Sharon hides in the background all the time, but actually she's the one that makes all this work.
Yes.
I'd also like to introduce Joanna Miller from the Disney family. She is going to come up here as well. So 15 years ago, when we opened the barn, we had members of the Disney family here. Diane was able to come out that day, and Michael was here. And so I'm going to turn it over to Michael because he remembers everything that happened that day. Now, I was here that day because I'm actually in a picture that's inside the barn. But I was doing what I usually do, and that's running around like I don't know what's going on, which is what I'm doing today. And so maybe Michael can give us a few words on what it was like 15 years ago and how we got here.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you all for coming. A show of hands, how many of you were here that day 15 years ago? See a show of hands. Okay, great. Well, we're glad that you're here today to help us celebrate 15 years. Joanna was here, and her mom, and her brother, and her children. We had 3 generations of Disney family here on that special occasion. So that Sunday, we rededicated this barn, and Diane said some very potent words. She says, "This barn is in my heart." And inside this barn, my dad built things, and he had lathes and drill presses and tools, and he would come down to this barn and spend his happy time unwinding from a busy day at the studio. So this barn was his happy place. And when you go inside this barn, and it's kind of quiet, you're the only one there, you can actually feel Walt's presence. In fact, when I did a tour of the barn here, I like to point out that there's a little mirror there next to the enclosure that Walt used to shave in that mirror. And they say that a mirror absorbs the molecular images of its history. So if you look at that mirror in there, and your face is seen in that mirror, it's blended with Walt's molecular structure. Think about that. I thought about my older brother Roger, who was a Disney Imagineer, how he could have created a half-silvered mirror with a special effect. And I thought if I had a little remote button, and I tell people, you know, look at that image in the mirror, and then I bring up slowly Walt's face. Now that would be a cool effect, a Disney Imagineering effect. Anyway, we're here today not only to commemorate 15 years, and thanks to all you volunteers. Volunteers, raise your hands. All you barn volunteers. These are the folks that make this all work. Because without our volunteers, none of this would happen, and without the support of the Disney Family Foundation, when we started out, this was a dirt path. We didn't have the lights. We didn't have any of this. In fact, Bill Abel, who was the structural contractor that created this for us, Sharon and I got a call one day from Diane saying the house is sold at 355 North Carolwood Drive. The house is sold. We've got to save Dad's barn, because she knew that probably the new owner wouldn't have any idea that was more than just a wood structure. It had special meaning. Help us save Dad's barn. So we went up there with Bill Abel, and he is a restoration contractor from over here in La Cañada. He looked at the barn, and he said, you know, there's no way we could move it in one piece. Could not be done. So he came up with a plan. Systematically, they numbered every individual board, every window pane was individually numbered, and they took it all apart and stored it. And it stayed stored for over a year. And we had a big container, a steel container, Then started the negotiations with the City of Los Angeles, the LA Life Steamers, and the Disney family to create a location for the loan of this barn to the people of Los Angeles and the people of the world. And so that agreement was finally signed, and the result is we started construction here with a new foundation, a new frame, saved 80% of the original wood, and because of the fire zone here, we had to put a fireproof roof on the barn. That's a cement fire retardant roof. And then on July 19th, 1999, we had our dedication ceremony here. So now you've heard a little bit of the story about how this barn got here on loan to the City of Los Angeles, and to be enjoyed by generations, hopefully, that have come here to enjoy it and discover the hobby of railroading. That's why we love to see little children come and visit. And I like to say that of all the Disney attractions around the world, and we know they're continuing to build more, the next one is in Shanghai, China, we still, to this day, remain the only absolutely free Disney attraction in the entire world. Even the parking is free. Now, I don't know if you have bought an admission ticket to Disneyland recently. It's not free. In fact, when Disneyland opened in 1955, admission was $1, parking was $0.25. Imagine inflation, what it's done to those prices over these years. So, we also want to make a special announcement today of a new addition to the barn. So I'm going to turn that back to Bill, our president, who's done a fabulous job of leading the crew and the responsibilities here at the barn. So, Bill?
Thank you, Michael. Michael and Sharon came all the way out here today. Michael has a new edition of his book out as well, so please make sure that you take a look at that. And now I'd like to invite Joanna Miller to come up for a second and say a few words from the family.
Well, again, thank you so much, volunteers. That's what I just wanted to stress. It's amazing. This is all volunteers. These guys come out here and spend a day a month, and they allow everyone to bring their family and get to know my grandpa. My cousin here, Alex Calazola, she grew up, she got to ride the train. Michael got to ride the train. Grandpa had a big train at Disneyland when I was growing up, and he never fired that thing up again since I was born. So when he was gone, I knew I was never going to ride that train. But Alex, yeah. So anyway, asked my cousin Alex. She wrote it. She had a great part of her childhood spent at my granny and grandpa's house.
Yeah, we have pictures to commemorate it. And it was a wonderful time where all of my brothers and sisters and my cousins were all wearing sailor suits, and we're all twins, and they're in the pictures. They're commemorated, and it was a wonderful time that we spent years ago riding the train around the Carrollwood Valley, and the barn was there, and it was just it was the best thing a young child could experience. And I was about 4, and all of us were between 4 and 7 years old, and we were just in awe of our Uncle Walt. No question about it.
Everybody's Uncle Walt, huh? So anyway, thank you guys so much for desiring to come see this part of Grandpa, and thank you to the live steamers who still support this being here. I know it's a lot for all the people that come in for the barn. A lot for the live steamers to take care of the crowds that show up for their part and for our part. And it's an amazing, just honor to Grandpa. Thank you guys so much for loving my grandpa. And in my mom's honor too, I came here because she's gone this year, and I just miss her so much. And this was very important to me.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the whole Disney family. If it wasn't for their vision, especially Diane, the barn might have just become a garage in someone's backyard. So we're very honored that it's here. And for those of you that have been coming out for 15 years, you've noticed we've added a little over the years. We started with the barn, which in and of itself is enough. But then we added the little Ollie Johnston train station, which is over in the next meadow. You should take a look at that. And then we moved the combine over here, and I didn't think we would ever get anything more exciting than that. But we're constantly trying to find new things, new displays, and we have an exciting new attraction that we want to debut today. And so I'd like Larry Boone, the Vice President of the Carolwood Foundation, to come up here. And Larry's got an exciting announcement for us. Yes, you do.
Hi, good afternoon, folks. Yes, we have something we think is very exciting. It all relates to trains and Disneyland. How many folks out there remember a attraction at Disneyland in Frontierland called the Mine Train Ride? All right.
My favorite.
Okay, well, it started out in 1956, went through the living desert and through something called Rainbow Caverns, which was a real state-of-the-art exhibit with fountains and waterfalls all done up with black light. And about 1960, Walt wanted to expand on that attraction, and it did. They added more track and a bigger area with over 200 animatronic animals, which would soon become known as audio animatronic animals, all over the mine train ride, and it was painted bright yellow at that time, called the Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland. And these bright yellow trains consisted of a locomotive, a tender, and 7 cars, and there were 4 trains, and they ran from 1960 to 1977. Now, if you remember that ride, when you took off, you left from the little mining town of Rainbow Ridge, as the old miner used to say, and you go through Beaver Valley and around Cascade Peak with its big, magnificent waterfalls, through some tunnels and out over a rickety trestle, and you were warned, sit real still, the trestle could let go at any time. And you're in the bear country with all the bears scratching and splashing and fishing. You wound your way into the living desert. You saw the cactuses that were all shaped like animals and people. Through the Devil's Peat pots, which were the colored, bubbling mud pots out in the desert. Through geyser country with old, unfaithful geyser that almost sprayed the last train cars as they went by. You wind your way down through Balancing Rock Canyon with all the teeter-tottering rocks that looked like they were going to tumble into your train cars. And then you disappear into the mountain, into the Rainbow Caverns attraction, and finally back to the little town of Rainbow Ridge. Well, all across Southern California, thrill rides were getting very important in the 70s. Magic Mountain had opened up, full of roller coasters. Even Knott's Berry Farm was trying to figure out what they could do to entice younger audiences. And so the decision was made to use the area where the mine train was to put in a new thrill ride, a magnificent coaster attraction called Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And our friend Tony Baxter was the chief show designer for that. He incorporated a lot of the old mine train artifacts into that attraction, which is very nice. But what happened to the rest of the ride? What happened to the mine trains? Well, it wasn't until about 1985 that, appearing on the banks of the rivers of America, just to the left of Cascade Peak, an engine and 2 ore cars appeared. Apparently there was a rock slide. It damaged the track and the train crashed and was just abandoned there. And it was abandoned long enough that 3 of the little marmots that used to be in the mine train attraction took up residence in that second mine car, the ore car, and they'd pop up, kind of whistle as they'd pop up, and that train sat there from 1985 to about 2010. About 2010. That's 25 years. And that's the last we saw of it. And best we can figure, with everyone we've talked to, those 3 ride vehicles are all that remain of the 4 trains that used to be in the mine train. So, jump up to 2014, about 4 or 5 months ago. We were sitting out here talking to Rebecca Klein, the director of the Walt Disney Archives, who happened to mention that the archives had taken in the train that was on the banks of the River of America, the loco and the 2 cars. And as we started to talk to her, she realized how enthusiastic we were and how much we loved that old attraction. And we worked out a deal called a long-term renewable loan with the Disney company. I'm looking over my guy with the cue cards here.
Good job.
Thank you. A long-term renewable loan with the Disney company. They are going to give us, on loan, the locomotive and the 2 cars. We're going to bring them out here, refurbish them, put them on display, and they'll be out here for everybody to see. Not tomorrow. It'll take a while to refurbish them. But anyway, thank you. We're very...
We don't get no stinking marmots?
Well, there's no marmots in the car. But there will be. Yes, this I guarantee you. Oh yes, and now, why sure. Here are some photos and ride attraction posters and things of the way the ride used to look and the way the ride appeared, or the remnant of the ride appeared on the banks of the River of America. And I'd like to bring up now a person who is the manager of collections and exhibits at the Walt Disney Archives, Nicholas Vega. Please welcome Nick here. And I'll tell you a few things here. Thanks, Nick.
Well, thank you, Larry. This is amazing, and it's really hard to follow up something like that. That was a superb introduction, and so thank you. And thank all of you for being here today. This is a very exciting day for not only the Carolwood Foundation and the Walt Disney Archives, but the Disney family and also the Walt Disney Company. This, as you can only imagine, this is a project that we at the Archives are extremely passionate about. And when we were able to connect with the great folks here at the Carolwood Foundation and realize instantly that they shared the same degree of passion that we do for refurbishing and displaying this piece of Disney history that is so important to us, so iconic, and more importantly, it's a piece that we're all connected to emotionally. I know I am, I'm a huge fan and admirer of Disneyland's history, but for us to be able to bring the train here to the yard where Walt, as Michael had said, would create things, would come here. This was his oasis, where he would come here and design and develop and just get the wheels turning, and to have that connection where we have such an iconic artifact on display here, we couldn't have asked for anything else. So, thank you not only to Larry and to Bill and to the Disney family, but also, as we had said before, to all of the volunteers that are getting ready to embark on this, what I call a daunting task, but I have great faith in the crew here, and all I can say is look forward to the next 15 years, because I'm sure we'll see some amazing things here. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nick. As Nick alluded to, it's going to be quite a project. A lot of work's going to be needed. We will keep you posted on the progress. We will announce a fundraising program as soon as that gets underway. If you are not a member of the Carolwood Civic Historical Society, go online or check with us here and become a member, and you can have firsthand knowledge of when events are happening and the progress on the new acquisition here on the mine train. Now, for those that are familiar with the ride, you may or may not be familiar with some of the history about the fact that if you were a ride operator on the mine train ride, you were inducted into a group called the Order of the Red Handkerchief. Of course, red handkerchiefs were something that engineers usually had in their pockets, and that was a special fraternity, so to speak, of people that worked that ride. And we have at least one member of that Order of the Red Handkerchief here today, Michael. And Michael Brogy was a ride operator back in 1961.
Thank you, Larry. In fact, I think if he's still here, Tom Askew, are you here? Where's Tom? I don't see him. Maybe he snuck out. But he also is a member of the Order of the Red Handkerchief. There were 254 of us who were part of what we call the Order of the Red Handkerchief. And in my railroad story book, I wrote a little vignette about it, but just to briefly tell you what that means. One of the summers that I was working at the park, it was decided by the ride operators, which is what we were called in those days, to put on a red handkerchief like the engineers on the big steam train going around the park. So we all put on these neat red bandanas around our necks because we were railroad engineers. Well, operations found out about it, and they came over and informed us in no uncertain terms that is not a part of your authorized costume. No red bandanas. So being the cooperative cast members that we were, we removed the red handkerchief from around our necks and stuck it in our back pocket. So you're kind of flying your colors out your back pocket. There was no rule against having a handkerchief in your pocket and let the red tail hang out. Well, there was a thing when they had the green cars that they were like the originals, then replaced by the yellow cars that came later. So the guys that worked on the green were the only ones that were part of the Order of the Red Handkerchief. And then later, those of us that worked on the later attraction when it was yellow, we were all then blended together in one group. In fact, Walt was one of our members because he actually ran the train himself. So it was a special club to be part of the Order of the Red Handkerchief. So I was thinking, maybe one of your fundraising ideas might be an honorary membership in the Order of the Red Handkerchief. You could sell them right there in the booth, get a little card, maybe a red bandana to go with it. I don't know. You guys have figured out to raise funds for this restoration project. But I'll share one other quick little vignette with you. Walt, when he had a special guest, this is the routine. You meet him at the apartment above the fire station. Maybe you have a cocktail with Walt in the apartment. Then you get in an electric car. You would head over to the Golden Horseshoe for the review. Walt loved to sit in that first box, the left of the stage, with his private entourage, watch the show, and then as Walt walked out of the Golden Horseshoe, if he turned left, he was going back to the apartment. If he turned right, that meant he was heading over to the mine train to take his group on the train. And if Bob Beekman was there, Bob was one of our fellow Red Handkerchiefers. He also gave the best live spiel. Later became an attorney. Go figure that out. But Bob Beekman was the best at delivering that live spiel. So Walt always said, be sure Beekman is there, brought his tour on, and they did the tour, and then they went back to the apartment. But that was Walt's way of treating his own personal guests, was a ride on the mine train. They didn't go to the Autopia, one of my favorites. They didn't go on the big train around the park. They went on the mine train. So that makes it very, very special. So I'm really pleased, Larry and Bill and all of our volunteers, that we've been given the honor and the responsibility now to provide long-term care for this Disney treasure. And thank you for being here today to share this with us.
Two quick notes here, folks. As Michael just said, Walt loved that ride, and a lot of people that knew Walt said that was his favorite attraction. Now, I think we all know the steam trains were really Walt's favorite, but maybe number two was the mine train through Nature's Wonderland. And just a little note that most of you don't know yet, even the people that have got a little preview before today, this particular engine happens to be engine number one. So that's, I guess, pretty cool. Anyway, Bill?
Just want to thank everyone again for coming out, helping us celebrate our 15 years in Griffith Park. We hope that you'll continue to come back and visit us. We've had some great guests over the years. You never know who might show up, so we encourage you to come every third Sunday of the month and check on our progress and see how we do. And thank you again to Nick and the Disney organization for giving us this unique opportunity to preserve this really wonderful piece of Walt's Railroad history. We want you to enjoy the rest of your day and come on in and see the barn. Just give us 1 second to move the cables out of the way and the barn will be open. Thank you for coming.
good health and yourself?
Oh, fine.